Hey Gecko and Isopod fans, it's Wally from Supreme Gecko, and we're putting away some crickets today, but I'm answering a couple of questions. I wonder if I can do this in 10 minutes. Hey, it's breeding season here at Supreme Gecko, and I tell you what, it is crazy busy. That means I have to not only put away crickets, but I answer questions and do videos as well. Let's see if I can multitask. We ordered about, I think it was 3,000 adults, and I think we ordered 1,000 baby crickets. And I'm just thinking right now, I don't have the baby cricket container. That's what we ordered. Let's get to it. So I have my buckets right here. I have everything set, food, and we're going to put these away. I'm going to put these away, but I'm going to go through what I'm actually doing here so you get a feel for what we do with 3,000 adult crickets. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab our dishes. And I'm going to set out 6 of them right here. And what I'm going to do is add some food. It looks like Nanette fed the isopods recently and didn't replace the food, so I'm going to take it upstairs where we have our bulk food to refill. And I didn't spill any all over the place. That's a good thing. Now we do use water crystals with our crickets, and it's just a great water source. We also feed vegetables, and that's a really good water source as well. I don't fill these up all the way to the top just because they go through it pretty quick, but not that quick. We're all set, folks. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of egg cartons, and then we're going to pull our very first question. And here's our first bag of crickets. We're going through the bug company currently, and I could not be happier with these crickets. I better focus, otherwise we're going to have about 1,000 crickets on the floor here, folks. Let's go ahead and add that very first dish of food and the water crystals. The crickets go in. And the top goes on. One down, 2 to go for the big ones. Our very first question, I have them both up here, is from Adam Mann, and he's asking, how do we separate baby mealworms? So if you're growing your own mealworms, you're going to get babies, and we feed a lot of babies to our geckos. Small geckos, baby geckos need small mealworms, baby mealworms. The only problem with that is that it's sometimes very difficult to pull out those micro mealworms from the adults. Most people, when they're breeding mealworms or even keeping mealworms to feed, will keep them over a wheat frass or an oatmeal frass. Now we don't do that. We keep them separate in their own bin, and about once a week we'll feed them wheat. By the time we're ready to harvest those mealworms, those baby mealworms, they've already eaten through all of that wheat. So it's an easy matter of not having to sift out that wheat. But if you're raising your mealworms, a little difficulty with this one, if you're raising your mealworms in something like wheat or oatmeal, what you'll want to do is slice up a potato very thin. We like to use potatoes because they can make big patties, and put a couple of patties on top of your mix. Now let them sit for about 2 or 3 or 4 hours, come back, Take one of those patties off, take a deli cup, and just brush that potato right into that deli cup. You're going to get hundreds. If you're raising the mealworms right, you're going to get hundreds and hundreds of these baby mealworms. And you can sift out the smalls from the very, very smalls, and it just becomes so easy to go ahead and harvest them. This is really an easy process once you get going. And remember the things in the right order. Go ahead and add the food and the water crystals. And we're all set to open another box or bag. So mealworms, if we're raising our own, or even if we've purchased a bunch of mealworms, we'll feed them vegetables every other day. But again, we're feeding every other day our baby mealworms, or our baby geckos, and we'll come through and we'll have to harvest at least once or twice a week. If I harvest, I've taken away from the big mix, I can actually feed, and if I have enough remaining, I'll just leave them in that big deli cup and I'll feed them in the big deli cup rather than putting them back into their culture. All right, that's 3. And so far, I tell you what, folks, we haven't, I don't believe we've lost any crickets. But I tell you, sometimes I forget. So I'm going to go through these containers and I'm going to go ahead and put some carrots in there as well right now. We like to give them carrots right away because they're coming in. They've been in this packaging for a day or 2 or 3. And these carrots and that water crystal will give a good mix to rehydrate them. We'll leave them, the crickets, in these containers for at least a day to kind of work through their systems and get hydrated and gut load. It's only after that first day, then we'll go back and feed. All right, all set with the carrots. Now all we have is the small crickets. Okay, I think we're all set with the small crickets here. I think we're good to go. Put the top over there. Something we do for small crickets. I'll take one of these egg cartons and I'll break it up into fourths. Let me do that real quick. Why do I break it up into fourths? Well, super easy. That way I'm not pulling out bigger pieces of cardboard. I can take this and put it into another container, dump them out, instead of taking a lot of these small crickets out at one time. Let me know if you have any other questions about mealworms, small mealworms, harvesting mealworms, raising mealworms, breeding mealworms. Also, if you have any other comments, questions about geckos, about feeders, about isopods, leave a comment down below. And that might be our next video. Let's go ahead and get to our next question. Okay, this one's coming from Frank the Tank, and he says, which isopods enjoy waffles the most? Oh, that's an easy question. They actually all enjoy waffles. I lost my razor blade. All isopods enjoy waffles. Why wouldn't they? Waffles are the very best diet that you can feed isopods. Actually, I take it back. I shouldn't really speak out of turn and tell you what isopods, if isopods like waffles or not. And the reason for that is because I have never ever fed waffles to my isopods. Never ever. It's just something that I don't do. Now I'm going to do something different for these small crickets. I'm going to take my feed, well, I've got a spoon already. I'm going to take my feed and my water crystals and I'm going to put it right on the bottom of this container so they don't have to crawl out. And I'll put a couple of little spots for these water crystals and a couple of spots for the food. That way they can just find it easier. Wally, why don't you ever feed waffles to your isopods? Well, there's a very very easy reason for that. Why I've never done that. Because they don't last that long. Waffles in our house don't get past me. I enjoy waffles so much. They're not going to the isopods or the feeders or anything like that. They're stopping right here. The buck stops with Wally for waffles and pancakes. Okay, last little bit of business here. If I can find the opening. Tell you what, these small crickets are always interesting to work with because they are a bit jumpy. Some always get stuck at the bottom. They always climb up on the egg carton and want to jump out, but I think that we're good right now. I don't think we've lost a single cricket yet. I tell you folks, it's always harder to do this when I'm recording than when I'm doing it by myself. When I'm by myself, I have loud music playing and just get to it. I think we're done. I put the crickets in, and we have 4,000 crickets that we just unboxed. These are all going to go into our bug room, and they're going to stay warm. I'll mist them just very, very lightly once or twice a day. They're always good to go with a little bit of misting to help them hydrate and also to help them go through their molting. I think we're good. Thank you everyone for joining here. Again, if you have questions, leave them down below. If you have comments, leave them down below. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.